We used to bring people to Las Vegas.
The consumer looks at it and says, man, I'm paying this much for this. I just don't see the value.
Locals are beginning to warn tourists about the dark side of Las Vegas. The question is, what are these dark sides and how can they be avoided? Once upon a time, almost every hotel in Vegas offered free parking, a nice little perk for tourists. Unfortunately, that quickly changed as many hotels now charge for parking. This is an entirely new headache on top of all the drastic changes that are happening. The parking fee rules are complicated and come with some exceptions. For example, local residents and members with rewards cards get free parking, but not for visitors who aren't members. If you brought your own vehicle or even just rented one, you would need to factor in parking fees. While some places like Sahara Las Vegas or the Plaza Hotel and Casino are throwing in free parking spaces, most of the time you'll be looking at an extra charge for any other hotel. Fees for both self-parking and valet typically run between $10 to $50 a day. Most people pay an average between $10 and $30 for self-parking, but if you use a valet, the cost is usually higher, from $35 to $50, and that doesn't even include the tip. It's just another hidden fee. Vegas of old was all about fun and gambling, but this new Vegas is a different ballgame. It's a game of hidden fees and surprise charges, even down to service charges. Vegas is changing, and it's changing for the worse. Not only are tourists packing and leaving the Strip, but the extra charges are leading the city into its own handmade doomsday. Tourists are beginning to notice that more and more hotels are deliberately adding mandatory tips and service charges to their bills. Though they claim that these added charges are meant to cover services like room service, spa treatments, or even restaurants at the resort, the amount is becoming ever more ridiculous, depending on the hotel and the type of room that you've booked. Las Vegas insider Scott Robin, founder of the popular Vital Vegas blog, had this to say during a recent phone interview. I think Vegas is still a great travel destination, but I think there are a lot of things that Vegas is collectively doing wrong, because the perception, I think, has changed from it being a value destination to a nickel and diming ripoff, pulling every penny out of every visitor. He also said, "Personally, I think charging for Wi-Fi in Vegas is ridiculous because it means many influencers and visitors are paying to post beautiful photos and selfies on Instagram or Facebook, which results in endless amounts of free advertising for that resort, nightclub, restaurant, or pool." He explained that the wrong perception and annoyance could be avoided if hotels and restaurants were simply upfront and transparent about their fees, instead of shocking customers when presented with their final bill. Scott also said if the fee isn't initially disclosed, it makes visitors feel like the hotel is trying to rip them off, even if it's not by a lot. Talking about tricks and treats. But nothing beats the outrageous entertainment ticket fees. These days, one of the biggest fees you're going to run into is the show and attraction tickets. These charges are often tacking on 20 to 30% to your ticket price. And look, these fees are tagged with all sorts of names like service fees, processing fees, and venue fees. See, this is just a new kind of game in Sin City, and you are, by default, on the losing side. When a big artist comes to Vegas, you have to brace yourself for a crazy bill. But what's really getting on the visitors' nerves is how Vegas charges are over the roof compared to other major cities. Take a guy like Kendrick Lamar, for example. When he performed at El Giant Stadium, his ticket was actually $7.50 cheaper than at SoFi Stadium in LA. But in an actual sense, the Vegas price was about $42 more. Why? Because of all the extra fees and taxes. See, the trick is that they keep them hidden until it's time to pay. It's also because of the trend. Major artists are charging more for their shows here because they know they can. It's just another example of how the city is changing, and it isn't for the better. This new Vegas is all about squeezing every last dollar out of you, including ridiculous resort fees. These fees in Vegas are seriously the worst. You scrolled and you saw an amazing nightly rate for a hotel room and you thought, that's an amazing deal, only to discover that the charges were even higher than the room itself. Now, this happens way too often than you're aware of, and tourists are getting fed up. See, a lot of hotels are using these nightly resort fees to cover the cost of things like the gym or the pool. But in the past, all this was optional. Guests only paid that extra fee if they actually used the amenity. But naturally, hotels got greedy and started charging every single guest. It didn't matter if you used the pool or not. The fee was added to your bill anyway. These fees grew popular as hotels are known to advertise the lower room rate to get more bookings. To them, it's a smart marketing trick, but it's also a major pain to anybody trying to visit Vegas. These fees often add another $30 to $50 or more to your nightly bill. And the worst part is, it's happening even with complimentary rooms. That free room could literally be costing you a fortune. And it's a real shock for people who thought they were getting a free stay after they saw their bill. Now, the worst part of all of this is how tricky it is to get out of paying these fees, especially if they're charged on essentials you'd expect it to be free, like Wi-Fi, a hairdryer, watching TV, or even an ironing board. It might also cover access to the fitness center or printing your boarding pass. Hotels also claim the resort fee covers stuff like unlimited phone calls or free bottled water, whereas some of these fees even have their own tax. But this is where things start to get even darker. Vegas just isn't the same anymore. It's become a real gut punch for tourists, especially when you have to deal with those wild ATM fees. Nothing is more frustrating than getting hit with a huge charge just to access your own money. For most people, that isn't even the first time that they're getting fleeced. They'd already lost money in the casino, so the ATM fee is just adding insult to injury at this point. Now, on cruise ships, it's a totally different story. When you have casino status, you can download cash straight from your room account into a slot machine. Sounds kind of like a great deal, right? No fees, no hassle, and you can do the same thing at the tables. But that's not how it works in Vegas. Unless you set up a line of credit with the casino, you would have to hit the ATM every single time and constantly eat all of those fees. And the Strip's big players all know these drills. They're all charging crazy fees for parking, resort access, and ATMs. Like, sure, you could probably save a couple bucks if you're willing to walk off the resort to find a cheaper bank ATM, but who's gonna cut their fun short just to do that? Nobody. And these companies know it, and the tourists have had just about enough of it. Sin City, the Strip, once a playground for high rollers, but a lot of things have changed. Tourists are flooding in and meeting a whole new Vegas, which is becoming a huge problem for tourists. And the downside is,